They forgot me. That's the truth that cracked my heart wide open. No big argument, no slammed doors, no angry words, just silence. The kind that hums in your ears until it feels like thunder. My grandkids forgot me on Christmas. The photo arrived at 8:12 p.m. sharp. A group shot. The living room at my son's house glowing in gold and red, stockings lined up like soldiers, twinkling lights reflecting in their cocoa mugs. 4 smiling faces, my grandbabies, Lily, Ben, Carter, and June, matching pajamas, matching grins, and the caption under it, "All of us together, full hearts." All of us, except me. I stared at that picture until the screen dimmed. Then I touched it again, zooming in the way you do when you're looking for proof that you still belong somewhere. I counted the chairs. 6 at the table, 1 empty. Mine. That morning, I'd baked my cinnamon rolls, the same ones the kids used to sneak from the pan while they were still too hot. "Make them extra gooey, Grandma," Ben used to say, sugar dusting his little freckled nose. I'd wrap them in foil, tied a red ribbon, and waited by the door for someone to call, for someone to say, "We're coming to get you, Grandma." No one called. The rolls cooled, the snow piled up, and I sat there by the window like a forgotten ornament after the tree's been taken down. It's a strange thing, being erased slowly. You don't notice it at first. One year they stop staying overnight because they're too old for sleepovers. Then they forget to text back. Then birthdays turn into quick emojis and half-hearted calls on speakerphone while they do other things. And finally, there's Christmas, and the day that used to belong to us. I told myself there had to be a reason. Maybe the roads were bad. Maybe they'd surprise me later. I even turned on the porch light. The old habit from when they were small, when that light meant cocoa waiting and a safe place to land. But the snow kept falling, and the only tracks outside were from the mailman. I didn't cry right away. I just sat at my kitchen table, staring at the empty mug in front of me, listening to the house breathe. The clock ticked too loud. The radiator hissed. My old cat, Boots, curled around my feet like he knew something was wrong. He always knows. It wasn't the first holiday I'd spent alone since my husband passed, but it was the first one where I wasn't even invited. That makes a difference. Forgotten is one thing. Excluded is another. Forgotten means someone might still call. Excluded means they already decided not to. I walked to the living room and turned on the tree lights anyway. Soft white, the kind that makes shadows dance on the ceiling. My ornaments told the story my family had forgotten. The paper snowflake Lily made in kindergarten, the wooden soldier Ben carved with me the year he learned to use a knife, the glass angel Carter broke and glued back together with too much love and too little patience. Each one a piece of my life hanging on a branch. I sat there for a long time, the glow wrapping around me like memory until my phone buzzed again. A new photo, this time just the grandkids, posing in front of the tree, raising their mugs. The caption read, "Teaching them the joy of family traditions." I laughed then, a sound so hollow it startled me. Family traditions. Apparently the new tradition was pretending I didn't exist. That laugh turned into something else. Not anger exactly, but a kind of clarity. A sharp, cold calm that slides into your bones when you realize you have nothing left to lose. I stood up and went to the drawer by the fridge, the one full of old paperwork and half-forgotten receipts. My fingers brushed against the envelope labeled Christmas Fund. Kids. I'd been saving little bits all year for their gifts, for flights, for surprises, for the things that made them light up like they used to. I tore the envelope open. Cash fluttered out onto the counter. I stared at it for a moment, then smiled. "Well," I whispered, "I suppose I'll start a new tradition." By morning, the world outside was quiet again. Snow covering everything like a clean sheet waiting for a story. I brewed my coffee, black and strong, and sat by the window with my notebook. On the first page, I wrote one word: plan. I didn't know exactly what it would be yet. Maybe a trip, maybe a change of address, maybe something bigger. But I knew this much. Next Christmas, I wouldn't be sitting by the window waiting for anyone. I looked at the photo one last time before deleting it. "Full hearts," I murmured. "We'll see about that." And for the first time in a long while, the house felt alive. Not from laughter, but from the quiet hum of something new being born inside me. A spark. A beginning. You don't wake up one morning and decide to stop being a grandmother, but you do wake up one morning and realize you've been one to people who've forgotten what it means. That was me 2 days after Christmas, staring at my kitchen table covered in papers and coffee rings, building something that looked suspiciously like a battle plan. I'd written "plan" at the top of my notebook the night before, half a joke, half a promise. Under it, I'd started a list. At first, it was small. 1. Cancel the Christmas savings account. 2. Find out what happens when you stop trying so hard. 3. Do something just for me. By morning, I'd added 10 more things, and every one of them felt like pulling a thorn out of my heart. Boots watched from the counter, his tail twitching like a metronome while I made phone calls. "Morning, this is Joe Monroe," I said to the lady at the credit union. "I'd like to close an account." "Oh, your Christmas fund?" she asked cheerfully. "Yes," I said. "Turns out Christmas doesn't need funding this year." Her voice softened. "I'm sorry to hear that, Mrs. Monroe." "Don't be," I said, almost smiling. "I'm just reallocating my resources." I hung up and stared at the little stack of cash. Funny how much lighter money feels when you stop attaching it to people who take it for granted. I folded it neatly and slipped it into my purse. Somewhere inside me, the part that had waited by the window all Christmas Eve started to stand up straighter. By noon, the phone rang. My son. The first call in weeks. "Mom," he began in that cautious tone children use when they know they're in the wrong. "We meant to call on Christmas, but it got hectic. You know how it is with the kids." "Oh, I know," I said, stirring my coffee. "You get so busy celebrating family, you forget who taught you the meaning of the word." He sighed. "Don't make this a guilt thing, Mom." "I'm not," I said calmly. "Just making it a facts thing." There was silence on the line, the kind of silence that's heavier than words. Then he said, "The kids wanted to call, but it got late." "They're teenagers, not astronauts," I replied. "Phones work past sunset." "Mom, please don't start." "I'm not starting," I said softly. "I already finished." That quieted him. Finally, he muttered something about making it up to me soon and hung up, leaving me with that old ache between my ribs. But instead of crying, I went back to my list. I underlined number 3. Do something just for me. That's how I ended up at the travel agency the next morning. Yes, a real travel agency. The kind with posters of smiling people on beaches and little plastic airplanes dangling from the ceiling. The woman behind the desk looked about 12 years old. "I want to go somewhere warm," I told her. "Do you have family there?" she asked. "Not yet," I said. She blinked. "Okay, budget?" "Enough to remind myself I'm still alive," I said. By the end of the hour, I had a ticket to Florida, one way. I wasn't running away, exactly. More like stepping aside to see what my life looked like when it wasn't orbiting around people who forgot to notice. Back home, I started cleaning. Not the kind of cleaning you do when you expect company, but the kind you do when you're clearing out ghosts. I opened closets and drawers, packed boxes labeled keep, donate, let go. I found the kids' old art projects, faded construction paper turkeys, glitter stars from Christmases past. I held them for a long time before placing them gently in the keep pile. Not for them, for me. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine, the cheap kind my daughter-in-law used to wrinkle her nose at, and sat by the glowing tree. "You did good, Joe," I told myself out loud. "You survived Christmas." The words felt strange but right. The next morning, my neighbor Evelyn knocked on my door. She's a retired nurse with too much energy and too little gossip to feed on. "I saw your porch light on late," she said, handing me a plate of cookies. "Everything okay?" "Everything's finally starting to be," I said. She glanced around the half-packed boxes. "Moving?" "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe just making room for something new." Evelyn raised an eyebrow. "That sounds suspiciously like hope." "Don't spread rumors," I smiled. For the first time in a long time, laughter didn't sound foreign in my house. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed again. A message from my granddaughter, Lily. "Hey, Grandma, sorry we missed you at Christmas. Maybe we can FaceTime this weekend?" Maybe. The word hung there. I typed, "We'll see, sweetheart. Grandma's got plans." And before I could talk myself out of it, I hit send. Plans. I liked the sound of that. I looked at the calendar. January was just days away. A new year. A clean slate. The kind of time that begs you to stop waiting and start living. I poured another cup of coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and flipped to a fresh page in my notebook. At the top, I wrote in big, looping letters, Part 2 of my life. Under it, I wrote the first line. 1. Stop asking for invitations. Start giving them. To myself. Then I smiled, tore the old photo from Christmas out of my phone case, and slipped it into the trash. If they wanted to remember what family means, they'd have to do it without my reminder. Because this year, Granny Jo wasn't going to be the one left out. She was going to be the one that got away. And something deep inside whispered, they'll notice when the chair at the table isn't empty. It's gone. It felt strange, standing at the airport alone with a single suitcase. Not because I'd never traveled solo before. I had, once, long ago, before I was somebody's mother, somebody's grandmother. But because this time, no one waved goodbye. No hugs, no call when you land, Grandma. Just the hum of travelers who had somewhere to be, someone waiting for them. I used to be the person waiting. Now I was the one leaving. The TSA agent smiled politely as he checked my ID. "Florida, huh? Getting away from the snow?" "Getting away from something," I said. He chuckled, not knowing how close to the truth that was. I sat by the window at Gate 24, watching the planes taxi across the runway, their blinking lights like tiny heartbeats in the fog. I thought of my husband, Frank, how we used to talk about traveling after retirement. He wanted to see the Gulf Coast, rent one of those pastel cottages with a porch swing. "When the kids are grown," he'd say. The kids grew, and then he died, and I forgot what it meant to dream beyond their schedules. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Thank you. The boarding call crackled over the speakers. Group 3. That was me. As I walked down the jet bridge, my knees protested. My heart hammered, and a quiet thrill pulsed somewhere deep. A spark I hadn't felt in years. Fear and freedom often wear the same face. The seat beside me on the plane stayed empty until the last moment. Then a man about my age slid in, a wide-brimmed hat in his hand and a warm grin that felt like sunlight. "Sorry, ma'am. Hope you don't mind the company." "Not unless you snore," I said. He laughed, a deep, easy sound. "Name's Henry," he said, extending his hand. "Heading home to Naples. You?" "Heading away," I said, shaking his hand. He smiled. "That's as good a reason as any." We talked a little, not too much. I told him about Boots, my cat, staying with the neighbor. He told me about his grandkids, 2 boys who thought he hung the moon. The word stung a little, but I smiled anyway. You can love someone else's joy without letting it break you. That's a new kind of strength I was still learning. Mid-flight, while everyone else slept or scrolled through phones, I took out my notebook, the same one I'd started at my kitchen table. On the new page, I wrote, Florida, Step 1. Remember who you are without them. I underlined it twice. The plane landed under a blinding sun. The air smelled like salt and possibility. Henry tipped his hat as we parted ways. "Enjoy your escape, Miss Jo," he said. "Sometimes you gotta lose your address to find yourself again." Smart man. I checked into a small seaside motel, turquoise walls, creaky floors, and the kind of staff who called everyone Hun. My room faced the ocean. I opened the curtains, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. The sea didn't care if I'd been forgotten at Christmas. It just kept moving, endless and unapologetic. The first night, I walked along the beach barefoot, letting the tide nip at my ankles. Every wave felt like it was washing something off me. Guilt, loneliness, the ache of waiting by the window. I whispered Frank's name into the wind, and for a second I swore I heard him in the hush between waves. "Keep walking, Joe," his voice seemed to say. "You're not done yet." The next morning, I found a diner across the street. The sign read, "Sonny's Breakfast and Books." The owner, a woman about my age with silver curls and a tattoo that peeked out from her sleeve, greeted me like an old friend. "You look like someone who needs strong coffee and stronger company," she said. We talked over pancakes. Her name was Sunny. Real name, no joke. She'd been a librarian for 30 years before opening the diner. "Books and biscuits," she said, "two things that save people more often than therapy." I liked her immediately. When I told her I was just passing through, she laughed. "Honey, nobody's just passing through when they find this place. They're usually finding themselves." I stayed for hours. By lunchtime, I'd helped her wipe tables and restock the sugar packets. By evening, she'd handed me an apron. "If you're going to sit here all day, you might as well earn your coffee," she said with a wink. So I did. For the next week, I worked mornings at the diner and spent afternoons walking the beach. Each day, the ache inside me softened. I started humming again while I worked. Old songs Frank used to love. People noticed. One man even said, "You have a laugh like sunshine, ma'am." I'd forgotten I had one. Then, one evening, my phone buzzed. I almost ignored it, thinking it was spam. But when I looked, my heart stuttered. Lily. A video message. I pressed play. The screen filled with her face, tear-streaked, eyes red. "Grandma," she whispered, "please call me. It's not the same without you." Behind her, I saw the Christmas tree, drooping, lights half out. The rest of the family blurred in the background, arguing. "I didn't want to skip Christmas with you," Lily said softly. "Mom said you didn't feel up to it." "She lied. I know she did. Please, just call me." The video ended. My hand trembled as I held the phone. The waves crashed outside, steady and uncaring. I could hear the diner's neon sign buzzing through the wall. For a long moment, I thought about calling her back. I could almost hear her little voice saying, "Grandma, tell me a story before bed, the way she used to." But then I remembered the cold Christmas night, the empty chair, the silence that had swallowed me whole. I took a deep breath and set the phone down. "Not yet," I whispered. "Not this time." I walked outside, the sand cool beneath my feet, and looked up at the moon. The tide was rising fast, silver light skipping across the water. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small under it. I felt steady, present, free. Somewhere behind me, my phone buzzed again. I didn't turn back. Whatever waited there, apologies, guilt, excuses, it could wait. I wasn't running away anymore. I was just walking toward myself. But as the waves lapped around my ankles, one thought crept in. Quiet and certain, they were going to come looking for me. And when they did, I wouldn't be the same woman they left behind. It had been 6 weeks since I'd left home, and Florida had started to feel like a second skin. The air still clung heavy and sweet in the mornings, the sea salt never quite leaving my hair. I'd learned the rhythm of the waves, like breath. In, out, stay alive. The diner had become my heartbeat. Sunny said I had the gift of listening, which, in her world, meant people left bigger tips when you remembered their stories. The regulars came to know me as Miss Joe, the quiet lady with the strong coffee and the soft smile. I liked that version of myself. She was steady, kind, and nobody's afterthought. Then one afternoon, as I was refilling sugar jars, I saw a familiar car pull up outside. Dark gray Honda, rental stickers still on the bumper. For a moment, my heart stilled. It was my son. He climbed out, looking older than I remembered, heavier around the eyes, his suit wrinkled, his expression uneasy. A man who'd finally realized the hole he'd dug. He looked around like someone searching for something precious he wasn't sure he deserved to find. Sunny caught my glance. "Friend of yours?" she asked quietly. "Something like that," I said. The bell above the door jingled as he stepped inside. He didn't see me right away. His eyes scanned the room, searching. Then they landed on me. Apron tied, coffee pot in hand, hair pulled back in a clip. "Mom," he said, disbelief and relief tangled in one word. I didn't rush to him. I just smiled. Polite, the way you would at any customer. "Afternoon. You want a table?" He blinked. "Mom, it's me." "I can see that, dear," I said, voice even. "Coffee." He looked around the diner like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. "We've been trying to reach you for weeks. You didn't answer Lily's messages." "I saw them," I said, setting the pot down. "Didn't seem like you needed me much before." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Mom, the kids, they feel terrible. Lily especially. She's been crying every night. She didn't know your daughter-in-law told you not to come." Ah, there it was. The truth, finally scraping its way into daylight. "I figured," I said softly. "Didn't stop anyone from letting it happen, though." He swallowed. "You're right, I should have called. I don't know what to say." I poured coffee into his cup. "Try thank you. That's a good start." He looked up, confused. "For what?" "For giving me the push I didn't know I needed," I said. "For teaching me that waiting on people who've stopped showing up is no way to grow old." He stared at me, eyes wide. "Mom, please, come home. The kids, they miss you." "Do they miss me?" I asked. "Or do they miss the comfort of knowing I'll always be there?" He looked down at the table. No answer. Sunny appeared at my elbow, setting down a slice of key lime pie. "On the house," she said gently. "He looks like he needs it." He gave a weak smile, but his eyes filled. "Lily's the one who found out, Mom. She searched your address through the travel agency, said you looked like you were running away." "Not running," I said, wiping my hands on my apron. "Just finally walking my own road." He took a shaky breath. "She's here." My stomach dropped. "What?" The door jingled again, and there she was. My Lily. Taller than I remembered, thinner too, but those same wide eyes that used to light up when she saw me at the school gate. Her hair fell over her shoulders, the same honey brown as her mother's, though now it framed a face too serious for 16. "Grandma," she whispered. Something inside me cracked. I hadn't expected to see her so soon, not before I'd fully figured out who I was without them. But love doesn't wait for readiness. It just arrives, barefoot and trembling, asking for forgiveness. She rushed to me, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know Mom told you not to come. I thought you didn't want to see us." I held her face in my hands. "Oh, sweetheart. You could never be the reason I stayed away?" Her arms wrapped around me so tight I could barely breathe, and for a moment I let myself sink into it. The smell of her shampoo, the tremor of her shoulders, the years of holding my breath melted in that hug. But when she pulled back, I saw my son watching, guilt etched deep into his features. "Mom," he said again, quietly, "come home. We'll fix this." I looked between them, the man who'd forgotten what family meant and the girl who was still learning. And then I saw something behind them through the diner window, the sunset spreading gold across the water, the same view I'd fallen in love with. My new home. My peace. "I can't come back," I said softly. "Not yet. Maybe not at all." Lily's eyes filled again. "But Grandma," I took her hands. "Listen to me. I'm not angry. I'm just done waiting for people to remember I exist. You can visit me, you can call me, but I'm not moving backward anymore." Her lip trembled. "Will you at least come for my birthday?" "Maybe," I said, squeezing her hand. "If it's an invitation, not an obligation." My son looked like he wanted to argue, but Sunny cleared her throat behind the counter. "Sometimes the best apology," she said, "is space." He nodded slowly, defeated, and stood. "We'll let you get back to work." Lily hugged me one more time, whispering, "I'll call Grandma, I promise." "I know you will," I said, though in my heart I didn't know anything for sure, except that love, when real, always finds its way back. When they left, Sunny came over, drying her hands on a towel. "You okay?" "I think so," I said. "That was a lot." She smiled. Sometimes closure isn't a door slam. It's just finally knowing which side you belong on. That night, I walked the shoreline again, the moon spilling silver on the waves. The sand was cool beneath my feet, steady and grounding. I thought of Lily's arms around me, of my son's regret, of the woman I'd become in their absence. For the first time, I didn't feel like someone left behind. I felt like someone found. And as the tide crept closer, erasing my footprints behind me, I whispered into the wind, "Next Christmas they'll know where to find me, but it'll be their choice to come." Then I turned toward the glow of the diner lights, the laughter drifting from inside, the sound of a life, finally mine again. The first day of spring rolled in with a thunderstorm. Florida storms are different from the ones back home, louder, closer, like the sky itself is arguing with the ocean. I sat on the porch of my rented cottage, watching lightning split the clouds in two and thinking how good it felt not to flinch anymore. Inside, Boots meowed from his spot on the windowsill. I'd flown him down 2 weeks ago, a carry-on passenger in a soft carrier, whining through the whole flight like a furry protest sign. But once we got here, he'd claimed the place as his kingdom. I couldn't blame him. The cottage smelled like salt and lemons, and the breeze moved through it like music. That morning, when I opened the screen door, there was a small envelope waiting on the step. No return address, just my name written in a careful hand I hadn't seen in years. My grandson, Ben's. For a moment, I just held it. My fingers trembled. Letters are different from texts. You can't fake them. You can't send them by mistake. I took it inside, sat at the table and unfolded the paper. "Dear Grandma, Dad told me what happened. I didn't know they told you not to come for Christmas. I'm sorry. I should have noticed. I guess we all thought you were just tired of us, but now I know better. Lily cries about it a lot. She says you looked happy at that diner. Dad says you have your own place now. I hope it's by the water. I know how much you love the ocean. I wanted to say thank you for all the things you taught us, for those cinnamon rolls you made every Christmas morning. I tried making them this year. They didn't taste the same, but I remembered your trick about extra brown sugar. Lily and I decided we're going to come visit after school ends. Even if Dad says you're busy, we'll find you, I promise. Love, Ben." The words blurred as I read them again. Not from sadness, from something softer. Forgiveness, maybe. Or hope daring to come back in small, uncertain steps. I folded the letter and slipped it into my notebook between the pages where I'd written, Florida, Step 1. It felt right there. A sign that maybe I wasn't done writing my story, just adding new chapters. The diner buzzed with customers that afternoon. Tourists mostly, sunburned and happy, ordering more pie than their stomachs could manage. Sunny winked at me as I carried plates to a family table. "You've got that faraway look again, Joe," she said. "Who's on your mind?" "My grandkids," I said, smiling. "Maybe they're finally on their way back to me." "Good," she said. "The world can take a lot from you, but grandkids, they always come home. Eventually." Later that week, Henry, the man from the plane, showed up again. He walked in wearing that same wide-brimmed hat, holding a paper bag that smelled like fresh oranges. "Well, if it isn't Miss Joe," he said, "you never did tell me if Florida was treating you right." "I think it's just starting to," I said, surprised at how glad I was to see him. He took a seat at the counter. "You still working that coffee magic for Sunny?" "Part-time," I said. "Full-time philosopher." He laughed. "You always did sound like a woman figuring out the universe." We talked for an hour, about nothing and everything. His wife had passed 5 years ago. He missed her still, but he'd learned to live around the ache. "You never stop missing them," he said, "but you stop needing the world to fill the hole." That night, after the diner closed, I walked the beach with Henry. The air smelled of wet sand and orange blossoms. He told me he came to this same stretch of shore every week to watch the moon rise. Reminds me there's still light even after dark, he said. Something about his quiet steadiness made me feel safe. Not the kind of safety that comes from being protected, but the kind that comes from being understood. The next morning, Sunny teased me mercilessly. "Careful, Joe," she said, handing me a basket of muffins. "The ocean's not the only thing pulling tides around here." "Please," I laughed. "I'm just learning how to breathe again." But inside, I could feel something shifting. It wasn't romance, not yet. Maybe not ever. It was rediscovery, a sense that the world hadn't stopped offering new beginnings just because I'd grown older. A week later, another envelope arrived. This time it was from my son. "Mom, I don't know if I deserve a response, but I'm trying anyway. I wanted to say thank you for what you said at the diner. You were right. We don't miss you because you made life easy. We miss you because you made life full. The house feels empty without you. Lily keeps your photo on the table. Ben's saving up for the trip. We'll come down this summer, if you'll have us. Love, David." I read the letter twice, then 3 times, until the words sank in. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about no longer needing an apology to keep living. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Thank you. That evening, as the sun dipped into the sea, I lit a small candle on the porch and whispered, "Okay, Frank. I think it's time to let them come find me." Boots jumped into my lap, purring like an old engine. The air was warm, the sky endless. Somewhere beyond the waves, I could almost hear children's laughter carried on the wind, or maybe just the memory of it. I picked up my notebook again and wrote, Step 2. Let love return, but only through the right door. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was waiting for them. I was ready for them. What I didn't know yet was that the summer would bring more than my family's visit. It would bring a truth I hadn't been ready to face, one that would test every bit of peace I'd built. Summer crept into Florida like honey, slow, golden, and impossible to rush. By June, the air shimmered with heat, and the sea hummed the way it does when something is about to change. I'd lived by the water for nearly 6 months now. The cottage had become more than a refuge. It was a heartbeat. Every morning I opened my curtains, breathed in the salt air, and felt like the woman in the mirror was finally someone I recognized. Sunny's diner stayed busy through tourist season, and Henry had become part of my little circle, bringing me oranges, fixing the porch steps, talking about everything from music to growing old without bitterness. Sometimes he'd ask gently, "You think they'll really come, Joe?" And I'd smile. I stopped thinking about if. Now I'm just waiting for when. One bright afternoon it happened. I was wiping down the counter when I saw a rental car pull up. Same dark gray Honda, but this time with laughter spilling out of it before the doors even opened. Lily and Ben climbed out first. Taller, tanner, carrying backpacks and that reckless joy of youth that heals what it touches. Behind them was my son, David, his shoulders stiff, his eyes uncertain. Sunny looked up from the register and grinned. "Well, I'll be. Looks like you've got company, sugar." My heart did a strange, painful twist. For a moment, I wanted to run. To stay the woman they had to miss, not the one they could disappoint again. But then Lily spotted me. "Grandma!" she yelled, her voice bright and cracking at once. She ran across the diner and threw her arms around me before I could say a word. Ben followed, smelling like sunscreen and forgiveness. "I told you we'd find you," he said into my shoulder. When I looked up, David was still standing by the door, hat in hand like a boy caught in the rain. "Hey, Mom," he said quietly. "Hey yourself," I answered. "You hungry or just looking for a reckoning?" Sunny laughed from behind the counter. "We've got both on the menu." We sat at my favorite corner booth. I poured them coffee and lemonade the way I did when they were kids. Half sugar, half love, no grudges. The first few minutes were awkward. Small talk, questions about school, the weather, the trip. Then silence fell, thick and real. Finally, David spoke. "I read your last letter 5 times before I mailed mine. I wanted to say the right thing, but there's no right thing for what I did. I let your seat at the table stay empty because it was easier than admitting we'd hurt you. I'm sorry, Mom, for all of it." I studied his face, the boy who used to leave wildflowers on my pillow, now a man haunted by his own choices. "You should be," I said, not cruelly, just honest. "But I didn't build my peace on apologies. I built it on starting over." He nodded, eyes glassy. "Can we start too?" I reached across the table and took his hand. "We already have." The kids were quiet, watching us like they were witnessing something sacred. Then Ben blurted out, "Grandma, we brought the recipe." He pulled a folded, butter-stained page from his backpack, my cinnamon rolls written in my handwriting. "We thought we could make them here, together." And just like that, the air shifted. Sonny brought us a bowl of flour. Henry wandered in with a grin, and soon the diner was full of the smell of sugar and vanilla and laughter that had been missing for too long. We burned the first batch, of course. Lily dropped the frosting, and Ben nearly set off the fire alarm. But it didn't matter. For the first time in years, it felt like Christmas in July. Loud, messy, full of second chances. Later, when the kids ran to the beach and Henry offered to take them shell hunting, I sat with my son on the porch. The sky was turning that impossible shade between gold and purple. He looked out at the waves. "You really built a life here, Mom." "I had to," I said. "I couldn't keep being the background in other people's stories." He nodded slowly. "You were never the background. We just forgot to look." I reached for his hand. "Don't forget again. You'll miss the best parts." The sun dipped low, and somewhere down the beach I heard Lily's laughter drift back toward us. The same sound that used to fill my kitchen years ago, the kind of sound that mends you. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, Henry in his guest cottage, my grandkids asleep on the pull-out sofa, I sat alone on the porch with my notebook. I turned to the last page and wrote, "Step 3, forgive. Not because they earned it, but because I deserve peace." Then I added one more line. "Step 4, keep the chair, but never the emptiness." I closed the notebook and smiled. Somewhere behind me, the cottage creaked with life, breathing, humming, alive again. My family had found me, yes, but more importantly, I'd found myself first. And maybe that's the only way love can ever really last, when it meets you in your wholeness, not your waiting. As the night breeze swept through the palms, I whispered, "Merry Christmas, my loves, even in July." And for the first time in a long, long while, my heart felt full. Not because they came back, but because I finally knew I'd be just fine. Even if they hadn't, the waves kept their rhythm, the lights stayed on, and Granny Jo, once forgotten, was finally home, in every sense of the word. If you like the story, please subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and write in the comments if something like this has ever happened in your life. I'd love to hear your stories. Thank you for watching.